Folks, this is Marlon Jones, Crushing Crappie and CrappieHunters.com. In my last video, I went through the presentations that I use to target a crappie this time of year during the spawn. It's really, you can use it any time of the year, but particularly is it effective for me this time of year. And at the end of that set, I mentioned that I would show how I use this float. So in two of my videos, part 1 and part 2 of the slip bobber setup, I use a different type of float in those videos. And at the end of my last video, I said that I would show how I set this particular type of float up, because this is what I use today. So this is a quarter ounce Thiel Wobble Bobber, and I want to demonstrate how I set that up and why I use it. First of all, I use this kind of float now for a couple of reasons. You know, one, because the wobble action in it allows the lure that I use under it, if I'm using a lure, to be more buoyant and lively, like in the water. And so I use it for that reason. I also use it, if you notice, there is a copper fitting at the top of this that allows for a greater line, for easier line pass through, as opposed to the plastic. And it tolerates weight a little bit better. So if I have to add split shots on, if I'm going to have an extra jig on, a double jig for instance, it tolerates weight better. So that's why I switched to it. But I wanted to demonstrate how to set this up, and the reason is as follows. So I'm not going to go through the entire setup of the slip bobber, because with the exception of this one part that I'm getting ready to show you, the different segments on how to set this up are exactly the same, with the exception of this one part. So if you look at part 1 and part 2 of the slip bobber setup on my channel, we start off with the bobber stop first. And by the way, I did get some comments back on using rubber stops, and they're excellent. By the way, I've used them before and they work great. The only challenge that I've had is that because I traditionally fish deeper water when I'm targeting crappie, or the lakes that I'm fishing are deeper, sometimes the rubber, I have to reel it to where it's actually on the at a length of greater than 5 or 6 feet, where it has to pass through the eyelets, and when casting that, it gets caught in the eyelets. And so if I'm not fishing in water that's greater than 5 or 6 feet, absolutely wonderful. It holds up over time. It's a lot more durable than the thread. But this operationally performs better if I'm fishing in greater depths of 5 to 6 feet, because I have to reel it onto the reel, and then it passes through the eyelets a lot better. But I absolutely love it, and I use both. But for purposes of this setup, I'm using the thread, and then the bead is the second part. So here's the third part. The challenge with using this type of a with just threading this through is that the line, this is 4-pound high vis line, and it gets caught in trying to thread this through here. So I'm trying to get this through, and I don't know if you can see it, but I'm having trouble, and I can't actually get this through, right? And so you can spend all kinds of time twisting and turning and trying to get it to get through, and it not actually go. So what I actually do to prevent myself from taking 5-6 minutes trying to do that is I use a needle. And so I just take the end of the line, thread the needle like so, and then I just pass it through. And then it's done. And then from this point forward, the steps to complete this setup are exactly the same as they were in parts 1 and part 2 of the slip bobber setup, where the next step is to use a barrel swivel, and then tying on our leader, and then whatever we're going to have, if it's going to be an Aberdeen hook or a lure. So in some cases, if you have 6 pound, 8 pound test line, you may not have any trouble threading this through. I just wanted to show that in some cases, if you're using 4 pound or 2 pound test, this will get bunched up and it can be frustrating sitting and going back and forth trying to get it through it. It may prevent you from using this type of a bobber, but it really is quite efficient for a slip bobber presentation and works very, very well. And of course, at the end, the setup should look, like this, right? Where we have our barrel swivel and our leader and our lure, or our hook down at the bottom. Now you'll notice that with this particular presentation, I've got a split shot here, and I don't have one on the jig setup. And the reason for that is that, but I do have one above the barrel swivel. The reason is that I use the split shot here, one for a little bit of casting, to give me extra weight when casting, but the other reason is that this helps the minnow to stay, to move around, but not to swim up and get curled around the rest of the presentation in the water or up above this line right here. So this keeps them, keeps the minnow, lively enough to where you can only swim up maybe about 5 or 6 inches, as opposed to swimming way up, especially if it's a bigger minnow, like maybe a bass minnow. So this helps control that. And then on the other, this is 1/16 ounce jig head, so I don't need as much weight here. I just need this to be kind of dead line, because this is really creating the action under the water, under the wobble float, and so don't really require one here. So I place it here if I need extra casting distance. But depending on where you're fishing, the current or the structure, you may not actually need any weight at all. So it's completely dependent on the water you're fishing and the circumstances that you're dealing with, extra wind, extra current, or otherwise. So one very important thing here is that if you're going to be fishing this float, or any bobber for that matter, and you're going to be casting, you're going to be fishing in distances of maybe more than 10 feet away from the boat, then you want to have a longer pole. 6 feet or better, because it gives you additional leverage with hook sets. Anything less than that, a shorter pole, 5 feet, 5.5 feet, works out just fine. So I hope that helps. I just wanted to show how to set this up and how to use a needle to do so. You may not require it, but in the event that you do, it's not a bad idea to have this with your 4 pound test line. And by the way, I'm using this is a Suffix high vis yellow 4 pound test. It is the strongest 4 pound test line I have ever used to catch fish. Now in the videos, I did this for purposes of this setup. In the video, I used 6 pound test with 4 pound leader, and that's absolutely fine. But I just wanted to say that as I've been using that, it's been very strong, a very strong line, and works out very well. So thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate all the comments that you've been leaving. If you have any questions about this setup, just post them and I'll answer them. And thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe and tick the notification so you'll get notified when I produce extra content. And thank you very much for watching, guys.